Hello, I'm Alan Holtham. Welcome to this buyer's guide to dust extractor. Now, you usually find if you're kitting out a workshop, the dust extractor is way down low on the shopping list. In actual fact, it should be right up at the top. And there are lots of reasons why you must buy a dust extractor. For a start, we're all becoming more and more aware of the problems of dust and its effects on your health. Even relatively low levels of exposure can cause serious damage. And what's more, the effects are cumulative, so you often don't find you've got symptoms until it's far too late. It's not just your health that suffers as well. If you don't use an extractor, you get a fine film of dust settling out all over the workshop, and you get shavings all over the floor. It's just not pleasant to work in. It's also a fire risk. Even the smallest workshops are becoming more and more mechanised, with lots of fast, high-revving machinery producing clouds of fine dust, so extraction is now a necessity rather than a luxury. Record Power produce a comprehensive range of extractors, so no matter what the size of your workshop, there's a model here for you. What's more, they're inexpensive, so it's not going to cost you a fortune to minimise all the risks. The extractor will only work efficiently if the tool or machine you're connecting to has been properly engineered for dust extraction. This is a good example of the planer thicknesser. We've got a hood that hinges over the cutter block, extracts away from all these moving parts. Put that over the top, lock it in place, make sure it's firm, and all we have to do is connect up the pipe. Nothing could be easier than that. And remember, the extractor is only part of a safe working approach. In many situations, it's appropriate to use either a dust mask or a respirator as well, and always ensure plenty of good ventilation. You need to understand there are two types of dust: nuisance dust and respirable dust, and the classification of these is based on the particle size. Nuisance dust covers particles bigger than 5 microns. These are normally trapped and expelled by the mucous membranes in your lungs and don't cause any long-term damage, but prolonged exposure can cause you some health problems. They're normally produced by machining softwoods. Respirable dust covers particles from 5 microns down to half a micron, and these are normally produced when you're machining hardwoods or man-made materials like MDF or during most sanding operations. And these are what accumulate in your lungs and cause the long-term damage. The temptation is to just buy one of these, a standard wet or dry vacuum cleaner. Now these are fine for cleaning around the house, but the filters just aren't good enough to cope with the very fine dust produced during woodworking operations. The motors aren't designed for continuous running either, and the waste capacity just isn't sufficient. What you need is one of these, a purpose-built extractor with proper filters designed to cope with the very fine dust, motors designed to run on a continuous basis, and loads of storage capacity as well. There are two completely different types of dust extractor, and the principle of operation on them is completely different as well. There are high volume, low pressure, and high pressure, low volume extractors. Now this is a good example of a high volume, low pressure extractor. We have an induction motor sitting on top of the machine, and this drives a very large impeller. This is the impeller, it's like a big fan. With this spinning at speed, it draws huge amounts of air in through the tube. The air travels through the machine and is exhausted out through the filter sac, with the waste dropping into the bag below here. Because this is a high volume extractor, you can't restrict the airflow in any way. That means the weave on this filter sac has to be fairly open to allow these vast volumes of air to be shifted through very quickly. Consequently, although the nuisance dust is collected within the sac, the fine respirable dust, the dangerous stuff, passes straight through into the atmosphere of the workshop. However, you can overcome that by replacing the filter sac with a fine filter cartridge. This has a pleated paper surface with a huge surface area, and this doesn't restrict the airflow in any way, but it will collect those particles down to the half micron size, those dangerous respirable particles, all collected within this cartridge. Now this type of extractor is ideal for the high waste producers, like a planer thicknesser or a spindle moulder. The only snag is you can't use it on power tools because you cannot restrict the 100mm hose down to the required 32mm size.